So you're ready to talk about making with the funny?
Sounds great to me, yeah.
Yo, welcome to my Summer Lair. I'm your host, Sammy AF Younan. And for today's episode, we're going to break down just what AF stands for. It's not what you're thinking of. The F, for example, could stand for as fun, because you're going to be invited to some comedy fun. Gay AF Comedy, in association with Campbell House Museum, present Courtyard Comedy, an outdoor, physically distanced summer comedy series of 4 shows taking place Saturday afternoons in August 2021 in the Campbell House Gardens at the downtown corner of Queen Street West and University Avenue. Or perhaps the AF could stand for fantastic, because Courtyard Comedy is hosted by Robert Watson, whose business card reads playwright, performer, fragrance aficionado, and producer of queer comedy shows. Which is what Courtyard Comedy is, another gay comedy showcase. So if the F stands for foreign, because you have limited exposure to this distinctive comedy scene, never no worries. Robert Watson will take us on a Universal Studios tour. Though before we talk about the present, we got to talk about the past, starting with Jack Tripper and Three's Company. Oh yes. Let's kick it old school, shall we? This time the F stands for fresh, as fresh.
Because I don't know if talking about comedy isn't as funny as doing comedy. So I thought maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where, like, it's almost like you're explaining the joke, I guess. That's what you're talking about, right? Like, you know, when you start to explain the joke, then it starts to lose its flavor and its comedy. And it's like, trust me, I'm really funny, right? Like,
yeah, exactly.
It's hard to convey that, right?
For sure.
And then, like, you know, and like when you're doing an interview like this too, there's no like red light. There's no, like, depending on the questions you get, there's not a lot of like places where you can kind of riff and like build on it and whatever. Like do the Seinfeld thing.
Yeah.
Like, let me tell you about this. You know what I mean? So I know what you mean. Yeah. So.
All right. Sounds good.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, let's get into all this then. Like, I guess we'll start at the beginning. We can start with your origin story. Because Peter Parker was famously bitten by a radioactive spider. And of course, that's how he became Spider-Man. So for you, in your early youth, like, what comedy did you engage with that sparked this interest or prompted you to get on stage and like start telling jokes?
Oh, that's such a great question. Yeah. So many things. I'm a kid of the 80s, so I grew up in front of the television.
Yep.
So there were a lot of things that inspired my comedy. I found myself watching a lot as a kid. I mean, first of all, the stuff that my parents would let me watch. So, I mean, something like The Muppet Show was like something that I was like, you know, I'd be watching that. I'd be finding certain things funny. And then watching my parents watch it, have them find different things that were funny.
Mm-hmm.
And starting to realize, oh, okay, humor is different for everyone. Whether I probably put it into those kind of words as a 6-year-old, being like, oh, humor is different for everyone. But definitely noticing like, oh, my parents found that funny. Why is that funny? And, you know, almost, you know, sitcoms were so plentiful in syndication during the 80s.
Yeah.
There was always lots to watch to be able like, oh, okay, that's funny. To my parents, or that's funny to my friends, and figuring that out. One show for sure I watched so much of, and it's probably because it was just on at the right time of day, was Three's Company.
Oh yeah, classic.
Which, yeah, I mean, and it was in syndication, so it wasn't like the original, but like, you know, Three's Company was like for a while there in syndication, like how The Simpsons was for a while. Remember when like you couldn't go to a station without finding The Simpsons playing.
Yeah.
Like, it was
also
sort of like
both
that.
a little risque, right?
Yeah.
They upset groups of parents, I guess, for a little bit of time there.
Yeah, and it's funny because Three's Company in particular for me is it rings true in so many ways, because I watched it and I thought when I was a kid, like, I want to be a chef. You know, I wanted to be like Jack Tripper and be a chef. And turned out, you know, I ended up being someone who, well, in real life, and actually not pretending to be gay, but actually gay. Unlike Jack Tripper, John Ritter's great character that he played in that. And funnily enough, that was probably my first exposure to this idea of queerness or gayness.
Mm-hmm.
Which is interesting for when looking back on, in the 80s, it wasn't like they were necessarily using it as a joke that everyone could laugh with. It
Mm-hmm.
was something you could laugh at.
Yeah.
But this was the first time I had heard that word and saw like, oh, what is it? Oh, okay, gay means that you like, the character Jack is supposed to like guys to
Mm-hmm.
trick his landlord into letting him live with two women, but he's not really gay. And
Mm-hmm.
there's some jokes at the expense probably of gay people. If I look back at them now, I might be horrified. But
Yeah.
uh, but like it's weird. Three's Company like introduced me to comedy and it introduced me to gayness. So I don't know. I don't think Three's Company made me gay,
Okay.
but
I think that was because the sexual innuendos and all those type of jokes. I think that
yeah,
was like. I think that was almost like I think the gay thing was almost like a foil in a way. Do you know what I mean? Just to kind of
yeah,
heighten all the sexual tension, I guess, going on with the ladies.
for sure. Like and just that idea of like it always for Three's Company at least always made that danger of like, what if Jack gets caught with a woman
Yes.
by the landlord, which is
Mhm.
so like the opposite of like, what if I got caught with a guy by my
Yes.
parents or something
Yes.
like that. So
Yes.
like it actually threw it on its head in an interesting way. But I mean, I know. So that one and Golden Girls, of course, is you say that to almost any queer person, like Golden
Yeah.
Girls, because it was talking about gay subject matter in a very positive way, starting in the 80s. And then I mean, when you want to talk innuendo, oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
they were filthy. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely filthy and getting away with it and all this with all the censors. I like that kind of stuff's an inspiration for me for my comedy because I'm not particularly dirty in my comedy. I love innuendo. I love double entendres. So,
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, when I discovered Golden Girls on DVD, uh, I was like, oh, and then I was like, oh, I think I see why my parents didn't let me watch this one,
Yes. Yeah.
Uh, So yeah, I mean, those are my early influences for comedy. I mean, for a stand-up comedian, I mean, there's so many greats, but for me, the one that spoke to me first was watching Eddie Izzard perform.
Yeah. Yeah. Mhm.
And Eddie Izzard, I mean, now identifies as a trans woman and uses she/her pronouns. But at first, Eddie Izzard was called himself a transvestite comedian.
Mhm.
So appeared on all their appearances, in like in boots, in not like full on like a dress or anything like that, but like definitely like feminine attributes
I remember
and
boas for a little bit. Is that accurate? I'm trying to remember.
yeah, maybe at one or two shows they would wear a boa or something, but like full makeup, and they would talk about their identity as being a, a transvestite who wants to wear women's clothes and express themselves in feminine ways, but still was attracted to women. And I mean, I guess that's the language of the early 2000s, and Eddie has since, with our expansion of vocabulary about identification and how people identify as in sexual minorities, now identifies as a trans woman,
Mhm.
because I think in the early 2000s it was like, if you're a trans person, you're gay. It's like, no, actually, your sexual identity is that of being the gender you weren't assigned at birth. But you can be a transgender woman and be a lesbian, and you
Mhm.
can be a transgender man and be attracted to men. So he's grown that way. But just watching the confidence and just talking as being a transgender person or as he called it at the time, transvestite. I think he used that more for comedy. Um, it was just like, you can be who you are and put yourself on stage, and that's something for a queer person can be very difficult because it's exposing a part of yourself. It's like, do these people in the audience may even like gay people? Like, am I going to be accepted just for who I am? And that's something that Eddie Izzard, I think, helped bust some barriers, at least in my mind, so I could be a comedian. So definitely Eddie Izzard's a big inspiration comedy wise.
Okay, that's cool. And then so then what came first then? Was it the comedy for you, or it sounds like very early on it was comedy for you, but like, or was it like children's theater and kind of playwriting? Cuz you do that as well, right? So
Yeah.
what was kind of like the first inkling was then that like what you're saying then it seems like comedy was kind of like, all right, I'm going to go in this direction. I'm going to start making jokes. I'm going to get up on stage. But then where did all the playwriting kind of come from?
Oh, yeah. Actually, it's reversed. I was a theater artist first, and so when did the requisite theater school that you think you're supposed to do when you're a kid, uh, and then learned a lot, learned about a lot about what I didn't want to do by being in theater school. But yeah, and got into playwriting first. So for me, I always enjoyed being a comedic actor. Like you put me in a scene, and I'm going to chew on that scenery for you. Uh, and and then when it sort of graduated into writing, all of that sitcom watching, clicked in, and I was like, you know what, I want to make people laugh with the things I write.
Mm-hmm.
And so all the playwriting actually came first. I had a breakout hit, at least by my standards, in the Fringe Festival in 2006 called Desperate House Pets.
Yeah.
And that was around the time that Desperate Housewives was around. But I was like, I'm going to write about, what do pets talk about when their owners aren't around?
Yes.
And, and made some, make as much comedy as I can out of that. And, and it got, critics picks and all the papers. We got like a full page spread in the Toronto Star back when they still covered theater.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Well done.
So yeah, it was great to be like, okay, so maybe people connect to my sense of humor. And then gradually what I realized is like, a lot of writers do stand-up comedy, and I enjoy being in front of people doing characters or talking about things anyways. So let's give this a try. So I went to Second City to take their stand-up course, and it just felt so natural to me. It's just sort of been something that's taken off from there, and it's been great that I can then use all of my knowledge from all that theater stuff to help produce comedy shows for all of the other queer comedians in the community to be a part of as well. It's been really quite satisfying.
Yeah, so then picking up on that thread then, like, has the past, I guess, I don't know, 16, 18 months, it's been a while, right, since everything kind of shut down. We've lost all sense of time. But I guess, say, the last 16, 18 months, has that altered your relationship to the stage, either through comedy or playwriting or acting? Like, the way you think about comedy, what you think about performing, the type of jokes, has your relationship to the stage altered at all?
It absolutely has. So I was doing shows out of Comedy Bar over on Bloor Street, 965 Bloor Street West, and it's a great independent venue that comedians can produce their own shows out of. And Comedy Bar does a lot of the admin work so that the artists can be artists. Mm-hmm. It's Gary Rideout who runs that Comedy Bar, and he's a fantastic member of the community supporting comedy, and also a supporter of queer comedy. He really wanted to get shows with queer comedians and gay comedians up at Comedy Bar. And on March 9th of 2020, I had my last show. I have a my brand that I do all my comedy shows under is called Gay AF Comedy. Yes. That AF stands for whatever you think it stands for. I had to put the AF there for and not do the full as fuck, because otherwise I don't get into newspapers. So but yeah, on March 9th I had a crowd of 90 people. And they were talking about COVID in the news, and I even did a parody song. I changed that 80s song, I Want to Know What Love Is, into I've Got Coronavirus. and you could hear the crowd. We recorded it. You could just hear the crowd just lapping it up. And then like 2 days later, it's like we're shutting down the borders, and we're like, wait a minute, I was just in a tight basement theater with 90 people, and 2 days later everyone's like, yeah, everything's safe, like the government's saying, don't worry yet, everyone go on your spring break. It's like, thanks, Doug Ford. Yes.
He's really on top of it. Yeah.
Oh, he sure is.
I've got coronavirus, so please don't come near me. Virus. Should So I cough in my sleep. I got coronavirus. So I don't take TTC.
And then, 2 days later, it's like everything's shutting down. And so, there's no live venues anymore. Like it just, they'd be shut down. The only people doing stuff like that were the anti-maskers. And, I don't really want to be associated with them. So there was a great move of comedians online. I mean, just like everyone else was discovering Zoom, comedy was discovering Zoom and discovering how do we put this stuff online. And there's been so much, I produced a couple online shows, and they have some different, different kind of tech problems than doing a live show for sure. And getting audience out of an online show is always a different kind of challenge because when something feels like an event, people get excited about it. So how do you make pressing, okay, let's watch this Zoom show into an event, right? That's a challenge. But even comedy itself, trying to do stand-up when you're, in, whether it's your living room with a camera on you or wherever it is, you're putting that camera to film yourself, the audience connection isn't there in the same way. And that's something that stand-up comedians just thrive on. And, you're doing well, and maybe to, continue down this lane that you're making, doing your jokes about because of the way the audience is responding in a live audience. Or opposite, you hear the silence and you go, okay, they're not digging this.
Yeah.
So a Zoom show is just all silence.
Oh boy. I guess that's like being on the radio, right? Like if you make a joke on the radio, you assume people are listening. It's going out somewhere. But
yeah, you just gotta hope,
Yeah, but you have no feedback of any kind. So no matter how funny you think you are, it's just going out on the signal.
Yeah, no kidding. And then the other side of that, I've been on shows where people are like, hey, everyone, we want all the audience to turn your mics on so we can hear you laugh. So you hear their laughter, but you also hear like, hey, do you want anything from the fridge? Yes. Or, oh, you know what? I don't like this person as much. I'm going to go use the washroom. It's like, turn your mics off now, please. So there's that side of it. I do think my theater background actually really helped for doing these Zoom shows because, the way I rehearse as a theater artist, you stay true to the materials, stay true to the script. Mm-hmm. And I found for Zoom shows, if I was staying true to my script and just trusting my own material, I found that it would go well. And if you do it on Facebook, people do the little emoji happy faces and laugh faces, and you see it about 10 seconds later, and then you just like, oh, they liked my joke from 10 seconds ago. That's great.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah. I mean, I've seen some of the other incarnations where like people do it in the parking lot and then they like honk the horns or they flash the lights.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. They came up with they got some really creative ways when they could start doing gatherings again. Like, there was a period last summer when we could do events again, and I did do an indoor show at Comedy Bar. Comedy Bar has just opened up again for August, so they're doing indoor shows with a lot of protocols now. And so I did they're not even allowed two people on stage at the same time, so I would have to walk off stage as the host, and then the performer walks up, and we have, of course, like little covers for the mics, and everything has to be wiped down, and the seating, of course, was drastically reduced in an indoor venue. So it's a weird kind of experience. It's almost like the way they have these protocols on film sets. It's like you're going through all these different things, which are, of course, to keep people safe. Mm-hmm. But it just feels surreal that you're doing this all so you can come sit in a bar and tell a few jokes. It does seem sort of, this is a lot of work to get this done. And then when you get on stage, you're like, oh, that was so worth it.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, comedy was the one I think and maybe plays too, because you do some playwriting as well. But I thought those two kind of mediums were, I don't know what the word, I guess in danger, like once the pandemic hit. Because if you're a musician, you can still record stuff. You can even do like some live IG shows kind of thing, like that kind of stuff, right? A lot of like art stuff, like we figured out how to do film sets now, and our productions are back in business and things like that. But I felt like comedy, because like you said, you need the audience, you need to connect. Sometimes some comics too do the riff thing where they kind of like make fun of somebody in front of the you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
exactly.
So and you need to have the interplay and like, yo, where are you from? And they're like, I'm from Chicago. Oh, Chicago, and they go off for like 5 minutes about Chicago. You know, so
Exactly.
you need to have all those things because those are the elements that make a comedy show great because it's the unpredictability. You don't always know what the comic is gonna say or the comedians you're gonna see. And then you don't know what kind of weird people are going to show up to these shows and like interact or heckle or have some weird story or something, right? So you need those elements, and those were all kind of missing. So I was kind of worried about comedy for a little bit.
Yeah, hey, and rightly so, because I mean, a lot of us were really wondering how are we going to, try out this medium of through the internet. And there was a lot of resistance, really a lot of resistance I saw from more of the old school comics, because they're like, this just can't work, like I've been doing this for 20-30 years, this isn't going to work. Of course, when you need to make it work, you do. And I think after getting a bit of the way through the pandemic, it's like, oh yeah, this thing isn't ending anytime soon, is it? It's like, okay, time to adjust the skill set. And it over the winter of 2020, 2021, I just definitely saw a lot more of the old school comedians being like, okay, we're doing this, and you know what, they were thriving at it. They were doing quite well. And it was really great to just see their faces, even if it was just over Zoom as opposed to at a live show. It was just great to see them back at it. And you got to keep in practice somehow. So
yeah, and that was the other thing, you need to keep the skills up. So I want to segue from the skills to some of the themes because, as you mentioned already, right? So prior to the pandemic, you were hosting Gay AF, and you let us choose whatever the AF stands for. And
yeah.
I've seen like some of the like Blog TO posts and Now Toronto things, and it's like the quote basically is, it's a monthly showcase for gay male comedians that puts the G in LGBTQ. And you've kind of already talked about this, but
yeah.
So I know Toronto has a vibrant gay community, but how would you describe the queer comedy scene?
Yeah, that's a great question, because it sounds like it doesn't sound like it should exist in a way. It's like, and for a long time it really didn't, and simply because the world has progressed in such a way. We achieved gay marriage in Canada in 2005, but that didn't happen in the United States until 2015. So, and so much of our culture is in Canada is reflected by or influenced by what's happening south of the border. But when it comes to something like a comedy community, Toronto has a thriving local comedy community, and they have a thriving local queer community. So it just seems natural that, like, well, is there an intersection there? And there in 2018, an open mic started at Pegasus Bar, which is in the heart of the gay neighborhood, and an open mic that was open to queer comedians. And wow, we all just started coming out of the woodwork. It's like, oh wow, yeah, no, I just finished taking courses at Second City, and I've been doing this for a couple of years, but there's just never been a space for me where I felt great about doing it, because my comedy is going to be talking about my identity, and maybe that's not going to be accepted at some of these other comedy places where not just the audience, but maybe the comedians aren't going to be so friendly about that. And one thing about comedy too, stand up, is this word, it's funny, there's this idea of like, we need a safe space to do our comedy as queer comedians, but comedians in general need a safe space to practice their jokes before they take it out into the world to a paying audience. And so it was time for there to be a queer open mic that was open to any allies as well who wanted to come and lay down a 5-minute set. But having that open mic for as long as it unfortunately isn't there anymore, we were always sharing the space with people who had just finished doing their gay sports league. I forget which league it was, and Pegasus has pool tables at the other side. We were always competing comedy with sports teams, and it's like, okay, we're gonna try this out. Sports teams sometimes were like, hey, they would cheer about something at their pool table, and we'd be like, what? Was that joke I said funny? Was that really good? And it's like, no, someone just stunk the 8 ball. It's like, all right, all right.
Mm-hmm.
So it had its time, and I'm really hoping that when the pandemic's over, that we find a nice queer-friendly open mic again that a couple members of the community can put on and have that space again. It's a little bit difficult right now, especially because it's mostly patio stuff that's happening at this point in the gay neighborhood, and all of those businesses have suffered so much over the pandemic. So it's like, I think they're trying to get their footing, but I do think that queer comedy is going to make a nice comeback in our gay neighborhood and beyond in the city. I mean, we've got so many comedians that are at a level where they're a solid middle, so they've got a good 10 to 15 minutes. And oh my gosh, I mean, if you want me to drop names, I'll drop some of my favorites.
Go for it.
Yeah. Oh, I mean. So there's definitely the comedians who have come before me that I have to give credit to. I mean, if you go far enough back, just to the We're Funny That Way festival, which was the first really queer showcase in Canada, and that started in 1997. That's run by Maggie Casella, who is just a queer comedy icon and producer. Like they were putting comedy on stages. There's someone that, as a producer, I really look up to, is Maggie. But then, that brought us Elvira Kurt, who is actually our first headliner on the show that's coming up that I'll be probably being asked about in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then also people like Ted Morris and Andrew Johnston and Richard Ryder. They're all, real veterans who actually went through being a queer comedian when there isn't a queer support system. So they're the real trailblazers for all of us doing what we're doing here in our little queer comedy community in Toronto. But I mean, if there's one person that I would just say that I'm really watching for, that I've been able to put on my stage, who's young guy, he's like mid-20s, Ben Sosa Wright. And he's someone who I watch go from like doing a good 5 minutes to a good 10 minutes. And now he's got, 15 and is starting to headline different places. And he's certainly someone that I'm watching for. But other comedians, Rush Kazi, who produces Asian Comedy All Stars and does Gaysian Comedy All Stars every once in a while as well. They're another one to watch for. And Vong Shou, who's come to us from Calgary. He's just been here the last couple of years, and he's been doing What Up Toronto and Fresh Fruit, and he has his Rice Asian comedians showcase as well. And him and I do a great podcast where we review queer movies called You Better Represent. So cool. I mean, I better mention him or else I'm in trouble.
That's right, yeah. And speaking of getting in trouble, you mentioned like the idea of having a safe space, especially to get this kind of community started. And I know that like one of the central arguments in all of comedy is this debate between like going too far or certain topics are off limits. The classic, of course, dead babies or even the Holocaust, right? Even though I know we're at this part of the dead babies part of the interview, but or like the Holocaust. I know even though Mel Brooks pulled off Springtime for Hitler. Are there certain like similar themes or positions within gay or queer comedy that prompts debate, or certain gay experiences that are quote unquote like off limits, or people like, no, that's kind of frown on that? Like, are there certain things like that as well?
That's a great question. Yeah. So when I say something like safe space, I'm not. It's such an interesting concept because you really can't promise a safe space in comedy, like in stand-up in particular. I think when I say safe space, it's like it's a space where I know that as a queer person or a gay person, I can go and I'm not going to hear about gay bashing or hear jokes that punch down at me. So that's what I sort of mean by a queer safe space. That said, I'm not gonna censor a comedian's material when you're doing your set. You're not going to be on a gay AF show if I haven't seen you before, because I have to know that you fit what my audience is going to enjoy, just speaking from a producer's point of view. But is there, when it comes to the idea of like, is there a topic that's off limits? I think really something that at least the community in Toronto feels in regards to our queer comedians, they really just don't punch down is the idea. The idea of making fun of like say a disability, or someone because of their race, or anyone who is perhaps a segment of society that deals with enough shit already. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A general rule, it's like, yeah, let's not do that. Like if I had someone come on my show and they started making fun of even just offhand, like saying the R word, or talking about someone with a mental disability or something, that's something where I'm like, I'm not going to laugh at that, so that's not going to be on one of my shows. That said, that's what the open mics are for. Like, try it out and you'll find out right away if an audience hates it or not.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of years back at Yuck Yucks, I saw a comic, and he was disabled. He was in a wheelchair, and he rolled out, and he started making jokes immediately about how he never has to buy new shoes and things. And it's just, it's very much his experiences, but you could see when people were just kind of uncomfortable and like, can we laugh at that? I'm like, he's the one making the jokes. I'm like, yeah, that's funny.
Exactly.
Like, he's making fun of us for buying shoes. Like, I think that's funny. But yeah, like even just like I said, people were like uncomfortable and like, I don't know if I can laugh at the dude in the wheelchair. I'm like, yeah.
Oh, that's so interesting, because really, like, what a treat to have someone like that come and do stand up and talk about their experience and how we can all laugh together, because laughter should be the thing that brings us all together. I mean, we've become such a sensitive society. Outrage culture is what I like to call it, as opposed to cancel culture, where people are just looking for the next thing to be upset about. And and that's why so many comedians, like people have said, like the current climate is really the death of comedy, because people can take a joke out of context and decide that you're against this, that, or the other, and that you're a horrible person. And of course that's taking something out of context and then putting all the emphasis on that 5 seconds of whatever someone didn't like. But people get really passionate about disliking things and finding the reasons to dislike things. That's both on the left and right of the political spectrum. So it does make it very it's an interesting time to do comedy as a result. And I am considerate of that, but I don't let it limit my comedy.
Yeah, it makes sense. Because I mean, I know, like, I'm from Scarborough, so I hung out with a number of minorities, like Chinese people, Indian people. So when we get together, we do, like, everyone kind of has their own kind of, they make fun of each of their cultural stereotypes, and like there's these kind of a cultural shorthands, right? Where like Italians always do this, and like it's the people from that culture, right? So everyone knows what they're talking about, and it's not like, I guess not like traditional racism. I guess it's like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's the experience.
It's stereotyping.
Yeah.
It's like stereo. And the funny thing, I've always thought, stereotypes exist because enough people fit that stereotype.
Right.
But negative stereotypes, on the other hand, are like someone taking something that a culture does and putting a negative and making it negative.
Yeah.
Whereas definitely, like, queer culture too has we have all of our lingo and our talking about Drag Race and all the things we do as gay guys, or like, and then lesbian culture as well. The jokes that lesbians make about getting into relationships so quickly. You bring to the second date, what do you bring? You bring a U-Haul truck, like. And and that's an old joke. Oh my God, that's an old joke. But it stands, and you can, when we can laugh at ourselves, that's a great thing. But when we're making fun of others, that's where, I mean, especially it's just a line to cross. And if you are going to be making fun of another segment of society, I would say the wisest thing is to bring it, if you're going to talk comedy wise about that, you need to bring it back to you and how your misunderstanding is what's funny about it. If you're going to venture that way as a comedian. But I as my other job that pays the bills, I was working at a department store right downtown Toronto. Of course, I'm working with people of all sorts of different cultural backgrounds, and they're saying things and laughing and having fun. I'm like, wow, I could never say that, and rightly so, right? That's your culture. Let's hear your interpretation of it. You know?
Correct. Yeah, that makes sense. So a couple more questions. I know we are getting to the Courtyard Comedy show, but I do want to ask one
Yeah.
more question about this topic before we kind of move on.
Oh, sure, please.
Because Canada's best exports really are comedy and comics, right? Like that's what we kind of like
Yeah.
share the most with the world. And I know most people, in terms of like the general population, I'm talking about, kind of only seems to know Scott Thompson in terms of our gay comics.
Hmm.
Others like Stephen Fry, Neil Patrick Harris, Wanda Sykes, like they're well known to Canadians, even though they're not Canadians. So
Yeah.
for the gay comics and the queer comedy scene you're talking about, is it important to tap into this like Canadian comedy pipeline and be part of this Canadian comedy tradition, or is this about starting a new tradition, like something kind of different than what we've seen before from like quote unquote Canadian comedy? And I know you can't speak for the whole group, but just maybe from some of the conversations you've had with people or from some of
Yeah.
your experiences.
Well, I'm going to try to speak for everyone.
Okay, go for it. That's all I wanted.
No,
Yeah, just tell me what the
I mean,
final verdict is, and that's great.
the goal of any comedian is to have an illustrious career as a comedian. So definitely, because there is this great apparatus in Canada that does nurture comedy, whether it's through television or specifically, I'm talking about probably something like Just for Laughs out of Montreal, which really is an international organization that always has a Canadian component. Like they just had their JFL online, and they were doing some live performances this past weekend. But they have New Faces is one of the things that they do. So the New Faces of comedy. So they're bringing out all these new comedians. But then they have one section that's specifically New Faces Canada. So Canada is put at the same level as the New Faces just in general across North America, but they get their own showcase, which I think is fantastic. I would love to see some of those Canadian names then slip onto ones where it's mostly Americans. That would be nice. But there definitely is a nurturing of comedy in Canada. I think simply because we have a tradition of so many funny people, that expectation of Canadians being funny has perpetuated funny Canadians being discovered, even Dan Levy being discovered through Schitt's Creek about how funny he is, and he's a queer actor who is playing a queer role on Schitt's Creek and incredibly funny. And people were really a mainstream success. Absolutely, we dream about that kind of success and hope, and we do think that the current apparatus does help us, but there's so many pathways to find success. And I found for myself producing my own shows that are queer focused has been a great thing, because it's not just queer people that want to see it. It's people that are tired of seeing everything else that's out there comedy wise, and being like, let's try something different. Let's see what these people are like, and it's great. It's I think you're going to see more and more queer comedians come out of the pipeline, whether it's something they talk about in their routine or not. I think you'll find there are more open queer comedians that are having success.
Okay, and then speaking of producing your own shows, you have a show coming up,
I
Courtyard
sure do.
Comedy.
Yeah.
So can you give us a breakdown of what this is? This is a really unique setting as well.
Yeah, I mean, well, we're still in a pandemic, so people are still sort of scared shitless about gatherings, right? So, I mean, even though places like Comedy Bar and a lot of other places, indoor places, have limited opening, and we'll see, I'm pessimistic, but I mean, most comedians are pessimistic that we're probably going to have a fourth wave that closes down at least events, because there's just enough idiots out there who aren't getting vaccinated, which, no judgment. But, as a result, there's a segment of society that's going to be just like, yeah, we're ready to come back indoors and watch comedy. And then there's some other people that aren't, and performers included. So I wanted to do something, since we've got this, hopefully lovely weather. It's been a little bit touch and go in Ontario for weather this year, but August is always the better month for sunshine, I find. So we're doing afternoon shows outdoors at Campbell House Museum, which is a lovely, heritage house with a lovely large courtyard right in the middle of downtown Toronto. It's right at a major subway station at Osgoode Station, corner of Queen and University. we've got the whole outdoor setup. We're going to have distance seating, and we've got exclusive drink sponsorship from Cottage Springs Beverage Co., who's offering like sampling for people. Like, we're making this into an experience for people to enjoy comedy. And we've got just the most amazing lineup of comedians that is a really diverse, inclusive lineup that's reflective of the makeup of our city, which is the one thing that I've always tried to do, which is actually a little bit more difficult to do when you're trying to promote specifically queer comedians, because people from other cultural backgrounds have enough trouble just being gay. So imagine being a gay comedian. So it's like, yeah, and I'm going to talk about you too, mom and dad. So Courtyard Comedy coming up, it's LGBTQ and ally comedians, so people who are supportive of queer people and also have their own distinct voice to share with audiences. So I'm super excited about this. It's been the response that I've been getting from people talking about this has been fantastic. It's great, and our first 3 headliners are all women headliners that are just super funny. Don't ever tell me that women aren't funny. There are a lot of, unfortunately, I'd probably say straight white male comedians that go, women aren't funny. And I'm like, no, you're wrong. You're just an asshole.
Do you want to mention the 3 ladies that are headlining?
Oh, absolutely. Oh my God, I better. So coming up on August 7th at 3 p.m., it's Elvira Kurt. And of course, Elvira Kurt, who I mentioned earlier, is just an icon and an amazing comedian. Wow. Like, they'll show up and half their set is talking about what they've experienced on the day, and I'm busting a gut over it. On August 14th, we've got Martha Chavez, who is LGBTQ and also Nicaraguan Canadian, and the way she talks about her experiences as a queer person with that background is absolutely funny and fascinating. She's a great mentor and friend of mine as well. So I was really happy to have her on the show. And then on August 21st, it's Tamara Siobhan, who's a little bit more of an up and coming comedian in regards to breaking out and just being huge. But she's so on the verge. It's kind of ridiculous. And she's also the head of education at Bad Dog Theater, which is a comedy theater here. So she's teaching the youngins how to actually, the ins and outs of comedy, and been doing such a great job of it. I was like, let's elevate this voice. So I'm really happy to have her. And then our last show on the 28th is Queer Cornucopia. It's all queer men, all doing their, being their amazing, funny gay selves. And that's got Ted Morris and Kyle Brownrigg, who are Kyle Brownrigg just finished doing his a long form special for JFL that's going to come out later in the year. So I can't wait to hear the new material that he's going to give us, that he was honing for that. So it's just, every show is just a chock-a-block with amazing performers. And yes, I did just say chock-a-block.
Okay. So where can people find you online to hear more about this chock-a-block Courtyard Comedy show?
Yeah, so Gay AF Comedy is the handle. So it's just at Gay AF Comedy. You'll find it on Twitter, Instagram, and actually follow the Instagram because everything queer, memes, videos, things like that, anything that you want. If you want a big gay laugh, go to Gay AF Comedy on Instagram. And you can also do facebook.com/Gay AF Comedy, and you'll find all the info there. Although if you just want to link to the shows, it's linktree/Courtyard Comedy.
All right. We covered quite a bit. We did. Jack Tripper, that you like to use the word chock-a-block.
Yes.
That Gay AF stands for anything that you want it to stand for. And that we do have quite a flourishing gay queer comedy scene in Toronto or in Canada. So that's really encouraging.
Absolutely.
So
yeah, it really is. Thanks.
So we covered quite a bit, didn't we?
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah, okay.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, that's not bad for a
Patting myself on the back right now.
There you go. Yeah, you did all the heavy lifting, right? So thanks,
Sammy.
Thank you, Robert, just for hanging out and talking about all this. And it's neat to hear the different perspectives of the comedy scene. Like I said, Canada is known for comedy. We do have Just for Laughs. We have JFL 42, and we have all these kind of things kind of going on. and it's just sometimes difficult to get to all the different comedy shows and see the different comics and things that are going on because there's so much to experience sometimes.
Absolutely. And I know this isn't plugging myself, but if you're looking for independent comedy of any sort in the city, comedybar.ca is another one. If you're just looking, if you want to find your niche for comedy, Comedy Bar will have a show for you. And that's one of the places I go that is where I put on my shows, and they've been a great support to me. So a big shout out to them. That's what I would say. Find your comedy. You'll find it at comedybar.ca too.
Yeah, fantastic venue. I've gone to many shows there, and it's always a good time. And that's also a great place too, where like you'll sometimes go to see like a comedian or a certain group or something, and then you end up staying, and then you discover a couple more people who are like, oh, this dude's good. Like I'm in with this dude, right? So
and then you can say, I knew him when,
yes.
you know.
Yep. So yeah, no, it's a great place. I'm glad you plugged it. So, and I'm glad that it's open up and then getting back on track following the pandemic.
Yeah, me too. Oh my God. Oh, thanks so much, Sammy. It's been great talking to you about this.
Yo, I'm Sammy, and that was Robert Watson, producer and host of Courtyard Comedy. It will be nice to have live comedy every Saturday in August. Phew. On March 11, 2020, the NBA suspended the regular season, and that officially big banged a significant lockdown. The movies, comedy clubs, sports, concerts, all of it went dark for months. As creators find a way to resume live experiences, it's imperative we don't take them or their talents for granted. To return to live shows is to spark gratitude and joy. What incredibly inspiring invitation to participate, either as a guest or as a performer. So yes, please check out Gay AF on social for details and go. Always go. As for my socials, they're all My Summer Lair for all three. My Summer Lair. The social question is, who are you determined to see? As live shows resume, and I'm talking bucket list here, who would you want to see before the big sleep? So good. Thank you for listening to me in a Netflix world. Gay AF comedy, yo.